A century ago, these faces slipped beneath cold water and newspaper headlines. Tonight, we meet them up close, not to sensationalize, but to remember. Each face holds a breath of history, a faint smile, a salt-stiff collar, eyes hesitating at the edge of a tilting deck. Some rode into the dark and survived. Others stayed so the lights could shine a little longer. Between these frames are small gestures that became the memory we keep of Titanic. Edward John Smith. The captain stood his post as water reached the stair. No long farewell, only short orders, and a gaze fixed on the black water ahead. He did not leave the ship. His calm became the shoulder others leaned on to run toward survival, and the reason his name is still spoken with quiet respect. Thomas Andrews. The ship's designer moved the corridors like a host turning off lights after a long evening. He checked life jackets, opened lockers, pointed the way with brief directions. When there was no more time for plans, there were only his hands pushing others into the boats first. He remained with what he helped create. Loyalty needed no oath, only a moment of choice. William McMaster Murdoch. The first officer kept the launching rhythm through chaos. Accounts of the last minutes differ, but one thing is solid. He stayed at his station and put passengers first. In the whine of wind and the slant of deck, he chose the work over explanations. Some heroes are known by the order they hold inside disorder. Charles Herbert Lightoller, the second officer and the highest-ranking survivor. He enforced women and children first with steel-hard discipline, then stood on an overturned boat balancing in the freezing wind to pull others aboard. Responsibility here is a verb. Act, again, without speeches. Joseph Bell. The chief engineer and his team kept the lights on. Because of them, final goodbyes on deck could be seen. None of them came back. If a frame is bright enough for a dim smile, remember, the brightness was held by men working barefoot in heat and steam until the end. Jack Phillips. The wireless operator tapped the last signals of his life. SOS, come at once. He worked until water burst into the room. No camera recorded that moment. Only the pulse of Morse that echoes in the imagination of everyone who came after. Sometimes hope is a string of dots and dashes sent into the night. Harold Bride, Phillips's younger colleague, was swept overboard and clung to an overturned boat. He later told of numb legs, of knife-cold wind, and of still hearing the engines fall silent. His survival bridged the story of Titanic's wireless, so it would not sink with the ship. Wallace Hartley. The bandleader held a violin and kept a steady pulse for a night that had none. People remember him not only for what piece was played, but for how music softened panic. He stayed and played until water covered even the sound. Calm spread like a quiet ring across the deck. John Jock Hume, 21, and playing to the last minute. After the disaster, his family received a bill for a ruined uniform. One detail heavier than any speech. Before he became a story, he was a musician doing what he believed. Use music to steady other hearts. Georges Crins, the Belgian violinist, could have left early, yet he stayed. Whether waltz or hymn no longer matters as much as what the notes did. They kept a walking rhythm for each step down into a boat in a night of hard wind. Roger Bricout. The French cellist was forgotten in a few lists for years. But that night his deep tone laid a warm floor for calm. Low strings drove stakes into the ground so fear would not carry people away. John Wesley Woodward. He held his cello like a duty. Survivors said music did not promise a miracle. It simply kept panic at bay. Sometimes calm is the first life jacket. Woodward helped many put it on before he slipped under. John Frederick Preston Clark. The contrabassist carried the lowest sound of the band. In the shriek of wind and the groan of plates, his tone was a line pulling people back to ground, even when the ground was only a shaking plank in black water. The weight of sound became the weight of courage. Theodore Ronald Brayley. At the piano, he chose bright phrases to lighten the dark. He did not need speeches. Each chord was a small reassurance. Courage can be the simple act of keeping the music just lively enough for others to move. Percy Cornelius Taylor. He leaned toward the keys as if embracing the whole band. No one heard his final note. They only saw what followed. More steady hands on ladders, more measured breaths. Music was rescue work of the spirit. Madeline Astor, 19, and lowered into a boat while her husband stayed behind. In her arms there was a second heartbeat, the child not yet born. At the line where wealth and power once mattered, there was only a hand that could not pull the other close enough. She lived, and his memory settled in both the press and the hearts of those who watched. John Jacob Astor IV. The famous man vanished with the ship. His name filled the papers, but those who shared the deck remembered him as calm and willing to yield a place. Fame fades quickly. A gesture does not. That is how he left the stage without a final line. Isidor Straus. He had a place in a boat, yet he did not go when his wife chose to stay. They stood together through the wind and the urging voices. Love at that moment needed no further vow. It was proven by staying. Ida Strauss. She handed her coat to a younger woman, then returned to hold her husband's hand. We live together. We will go together. Much has been written about Titanic. Her story is one paragraph that needs no editing. Plain, proud, enduring. Margaret Molly Brown. She took an oar and urged her boat to keep rhythm and keep warm with words. On shore, she raised money for those who lost everything. The title Unsinkable came later. Her actions arrived on time. Noel Leslie. The Countess of Rothes also rowed, guiding a boat across slicks of oil. Her title fell behind her. Ahead were aching muscles and steady breath. Sometimes the highest status is the status of the helper. Nothing more, nothing less. Archibald Gracie IV. He survived and wrote. He described the cold not only in the sea but in memory. He died before the year ended. His pages became a handrail for later readers entering the dark of 1912. Lawrence Beasley. The schoolmaster published his account within months. His even voice is a durable witness. From that book, many details now have a footing. Calm on the page saved facts from being lost. Rhoda Abbott. The only woman recorded as going down with the ship and later surviving. Her two sons did not return. In her portrait, beauty is not in lines, but in endurance. A mother's heart is sometimes the toughest thing in the cold, even when it must learn to beat alone. Frederick Fleet. The lookout blew his whistle and rang the bell. Ice right ahead. He did what his watch required, then carried his own warning for the rest of his life. Technology grows modern. The world still breaks at the force of a simple signal sent at the right moment. J. Bruce Ismay. He left on a collapsible boat, and his name has carried arguments for decades. There is no verdict here. Only a face and a spare fact. He lived. The public judged him more harshly than any court. Within the judgment, there was still a man walking back into daylight with a long shadow. Mary Sloan, the stewardess, steadied one step after another, then took her own place when she could. She later returned to the sea. Her way of meeting fear was to pass through it. Each ship after carried a small lesson from that night in her quiet manner. Thomas W. Macaulay. The gymnasium instructor turned the room of weights into a small transfer station. Life jackets, directions, reassurance. When shining plates were no longer toys, they became handholds for steadying breath before the run to the deck. Sometimes strength is not muscle. It is a voice saying, "Things will be all right." Francis Brown. The priest took the last photograph of Titanic at Queenstown before he left the ship. In that frame, the faces are only tiny marks, but restoration lets us see eyes again. 3 days later, the ocean folded that picture in half. We rejoin the pieces with memory, and by speaking each name.